So here we are with a first look at a 2002 PT Cruiser. Another one, again, if you've watched this Demolition Noob YouTube channel for a couple years, we had one of these. My mom and dad had a, just like this, like a maroonish purple PT Cruiser 2002, same year. And I was still learning then. It was my second summer Derbyan, and I didn't know nearly what I knew now, and it was a tough little car. I won a heat trophy. Was it 14 cars? We won a heat, and it took a pound and ended up running it 3 times, good runs each time. So I'm high on them. Now this one, you can see we've already got the plastic off, and you'll notice this wheel's slightly angled in, and that wheel, it's kind of hard to see, but slightly angled in. This car was actually in an accident, and you can see here, the inside the rear wheel. Back tires were bald, front are brand new. The guy should have put all 4 on them. Lost the back end, hit kind of a, not a guardrail, but a big rock right off of the road. Did damage there. It bent something up front, but I'm not actually sure. But it did some damage to the plastic, and it was kind of hanging, so I just took it off and unbolted the lights, and that's all we've done before we made this quick little look here. So again, 2002 PT Cruiser. The motor and everything, again, we're building 2 PT Cruisers. We have a 2007, and then this one here, just over 100,000 miles on the motor. So you are talking about a motor in great shape, transmission in great shape. And again, looking underneath just kind of quickly, I'm not sure. You can see here, same thing, kind of damage from the rock. From what he said, it hit the rock, kind of spun it around, and then hit it again on the back. So a little bit of a bent rear wheel here, but the tank's fine. I'm actually going to plan on running it stock tank. Again, just took off the plastic bumpers, and then just back here, this one was a little bit of damage too in the back corner. Just dropped them. The lights unhook real easy. So again, you can see the damage inside the rear wheels, but she runs straight enough. It goes into gear, no problem. And we think these PT Cruisers are tough. So just a quick first look. We're going to dive into her. Again, a stock build. Let's see what we can get. So about an hour and a half later, just a quick look here before we call it a night. Got the inner door panels off. The passenger side rear door panel here, from that damage, the whole bottom of the door is in essence crushed in. But I was able to, once I got the seats out and the interior plastic like you see on that side, I was able to get it out. So not a big deal, and that door doesn't need opened. So the window's out. Again, once you get them in, you can get the through the screw holes to the bolts. This one had 2 bolts on each window that was holding the window to the mechanism that the motor moves up and down. So got the windows all out. These rear windows screw in. This one has one strip, so I just said, hey, we're gonna call it a night there. But I got all the plastic off. Again, we'll get the roof off here next, get that seat out of there. Same thing back here. We'll get these things unplugged so that there's nothing back here but the window, which will break later. But yeah, about an hour and a half, a little over an hour and a half probably. Got all the interior stuff, all the windows out, all the door panels out. And that carpet there we'll just cut and just pull it out. Again, we're planning on running the stock tank. This door is damaged. You can see how it's going to have to beat it back in. But it opened whenever I gave it a good pull. You can see it's really just that corner. That door, the whole bottom part is crushed. So got all of that cosmetic stuff out. As you can see, just kind of make a pile of it. The seats came out there. The bumpers, again, were already damaged, and I took off. Doors up there. So coming along. Got most of the inside stuff out. We're going to call it a night and get back to it here shortly in another day or 2. So as we made a lot of progress, just one more look and a couple kind of tidbits of how I do stuff. We'll get to the motor, which you can see I have the core support off here in a moment. But inside, everything is stripped out. And again, how I do it, I mean, you know, there might be better, more efficient ways. But how I do it, especially using the stock computer, stock fuel tank cell as well, whether it's under the tank, like I'm going to run this one, or under the car, I should say, in the stock tank, or if I put it in my Derby tank, I run the stock fuel cell and stock wiring. Is I simply unplug everything. Don't cut anything, especially behind the motor. I had a guy tell me that. So again, the plastic and everything, just kind of take out the screws, and then there's a lot of like clips that like pop out. Door panels, again, got those off, slide them down to where you can get to the bolts that are holding the window onto the kind of mount that rides up and down that the motor powers. Pretty simple with that. Sometimes maybe you have a bad window or window doesn't work, makes it a little harder. But then I just unplug everything. You can see I have a lot of stuff here, and then I just pull it forward. Now I do running the stock. See, there's like one here. I do like the ground wires, or wires that I think are ground. I'll either drill or use an existing hole somewhere in the front half of the car, just because again I'm using the stock wiring, so I want it to still have a ground like it normally does. But yeah, everything in the back's done. Just gotta unbolt these couple things. So probably tomorrow we're gonna take out the windshield. Again, you just gotta break these back ones. There's no way to get around it. Just break it in and use the shop vac to sweep it all up. That's how I do it. Windshields up front, again, I like to kind of use like a paint chip and a hammer, kind of get underneath it and peel it back. Maybe I'll show a little bit of that as we're gonna do that tomorrow, and get it peeled out as much as possible. And then I usually just cut along the bottom so that that's like that. But yeah, everything inside is done. Just got to pull some wiring forward. The speakers, again, I'll unplug and pull forward, but that's how I do that. If you're pulling on a piece of plastic, it's not breaking loose, and there's probably another screw hidden, as there usually is. Up front here, pretty close to done. So the battery box, again, want to take out. The shifter arm's right under that. I had a PT Cruiser before get hit in the frame rail, and it bent in and pinned the shifter. Certainly don't want that to happen again. This O2 Cruiser, this right here is a critical piece of technology. So we're going to take off the bumper. We're going to put on one of my big bumpers there. Again, those guys are stock, but they do not bend off a Caravan. Shout out to Chevitz. He gets those and sells those, and I got a couple off them. But this guy we're going to unplug and pull underneath. Again, this will be off underneath and then through into there. And then again, I'll spray foam to kind of secure it. That guy, we do not want any damage. The newer computers and all that stuff seems to be more inside in the newer PTs, but not this one. And you can see how I've undone the core support. So the core support's right there. Again, just a couple bolts here on each side. And I took the fan out. This fan actually had a short in it of some kind. He had kind of a rigged wiring thing, but I don't need that anyways. And in my opinion, the only downfall, significant downfall with the Cruisers, kind of like how the Cobalts, if you see my videos, have the big airbox on top. Well, this one, you can see, has the starter really exposed out. You can see how there's nothing kind of covering or protecting it. Usually most 4-cylinders have kind of the catalytic converter come out here, part of the muffler, so it kind of press against it. Behind it is where the starter is. Well, this one is right out in the open, and I had a shot go through it was on the O2 Cruiser I ran, and went into the starter, busted it off, blew a main fuse, and I was sitting there dead. Ended up just having to buy a new starter and fixed it, but we are going to loop them. So we're going to take out this. I'm just going to unhook kind of the AC stuff here in the side, and then the transmission are the 2 lines right there that are left. Again, I'll cut those, loop those around. And just to show again, if you're someone that isn't very experienced, this is all I use to loop them. Just put in one end up to there, one end up to there, and then again, a high pressure clamp. You sell these at like AutoZone for like fuel lines. Put that on each end, get it tight, and that way it's looping. Whether you're running a stock radiator or the looped radiator lines, which I'll loop this down to the one down there, and then again I'll use this guy here. You got to have a way for pressure to be kind of released, so that I run in between my hoses. I'll show in the final video how I did it, and then this is just kind of like an overflow. And again, that way, not only easy, I should say, to fill it, but you got to have that pressure release. Again, I ran a couple cars early and I didn't do that. And what I do after the pressure builds for so long, it literally just blows through the line, and then you're cooking the motor. You don't have long for that, maybe 7 or 8 minutes possibly before she's cooked. So that's what we're gonna do up here. Just gonna, as I said, unbolt each side there, the transmission lines and the AC, pull that out. Got a brand new radiator for anybody who wants that, make some money back. Loop those lines, loop the tranny lines, and then again, once we're done, we'll spray foam, but we'll do that later. So good bit done. I'd say right now we're probably in the 4-ish range. Again, probably close to 5, I'd say. I mean, I don't really hurry. You can see my huge pile in the back. The seats come out nice and easy on the Cruiser here. Got my big inner door and all that scrap there. So coming along, just a couple more things up front, and get her ready to break some and remove some glass tomorrow. We're getting there. So just one more quick update here before we start packing up and cleaning up and pulling it out to get the glass out. Again, the fan's out. Had the radiator loose. It is now completely out. And again, here is our looped radiator lines. Again, those clamps I'll tighten down here. Got that piece in between, and just use the saw to cut off where it goes into kind of the coolant there on the radiator to keep the transmission cool. We're going to loop it so that way if you have a radiator get punched in the mouth, it's not going to leak out your tranny fluid. You want to do it regardless. But as again, you can see, I'm going to run the looped lines with the radiator hose, fix that up. But I wanted to show how the AC lines here, I just unbolt and pulled out. Again, if you don't know, be careful. It'll first have pressure in it, either cutting the lines or unbolting and pulling them out. Just make sure it doesn't spray in your face, or I wouldn't even get on my hands. But pretty simple, and then just unbolt that, and again, that'll sit there. But I in particular wanted to show this, and again, I did this before a couple years ago when we had the Cruiser. So right in here is our thermostat, our little piece that whenever it gets hot, it opens up and cycles the water from the motor or the coolant into the radiator, and vice versa. It goes in, puts new fresh ones in there. So I'm gonna take that out, just simply unbolt to I think 10 millimeters bolts on top, open that up, carefully pull that out, and I'll just cut in essence the bottom out so it just stays open. So the piece is still in there so that it's a nice flush fit and you're not leaking anything out. But I'll have the water constantly looping with, again, my fabric softener, nice April Fresh scent. So that way it's constantly looping and keeping cool, and that's how you want to do it with the loop lines. The other thing to point out here is your sensor. This guy here, get it to sensor, or focus rather. This is the one I ran before on my 02 PT Cruiser. I kept it because I'm like, man, I like the Cruisers. And you can see it's a little dirty and scummy, so I wasn't gonna be able to take it back. But I'll simply unplug that. Again, if you don't know, leave that in there because it is plugging the hole. And then I'll plug this in, probably secure it somewhere in here with zip ties. So that way the computer doesn't get told as I'm running stock wiring and everything, hey, we're getting too hot, you gotta shut us down. It will run until the motor cooks. So the sensor, the thermostat out, again, another way, especially with the looped radiator lines, to keep it running cool, and you don't got to worry. I mean, the motor's going to get hot and it's likely going to cook if you're having a good run, 15, 20 or more minutes. So that is how we'll set it up. Again, just get that battery box out. The bolts are underneath, it seems, on some of them. Bizarre, I've never seen it like that. And then it's got a piece there that sticks out we'll try to get rid of as well. So again, thermostats, you can, if you buy them and you run them and you don't damage them or really get them dirty at all. I have done it before. I've taken it back and got my money back. But, you know, this time I've kept that one and I'll use it. So finishing up front, and then we'll pull her off and take the glass out. And just to quickly show, so there we have our radiator line looped, going around to the thermostat, which again is right there. Just undid the two 10 millimeter bolts, picked it up. There's the thermostat again. This thing gets hot and it pops and opens. We're gonna take just our handsaw and just clip that and that and put it back in so that that hole there is just open and it's just cycling, just constantly cycling. And again, this is the piece I mentioned. You got to have that little bit of a pressure release there. We'll secure with some zip ties later. And then got two kind of heavy duty clamps there to get her tight. So that is it. Also, you can see there's our looped radiator lines. We just caught the fluid out of the radiator there. And I got that son of a gun right there off. Goodness, is that annoying, but with the radiator out, was able to get to the 4 bolts, 2 on the inside and 2 on the outside. So that is done. That again, we'll put inside, hit a bunch of spray foam. Probably do spray foam around the starter. Again, zip tie that, get that inside, that piece there on the outside of the frame rail, zip tie that, and then we just got to take our battery lines and run them in once we have the windshield out. So it's coming together. So here we are, ready to dive into the windshield. Again, I put my tarps down below, kind of catches the excess, just got some stuff holding down the tarps so the wind doesn't blow it away. My trusty tools, gloves and glasses, of course, and then I have this, I just call it a paint chisel, I don't know the exact name of it, and a hammer. That's all I need. I'll kind of go in along the edge and show here as my allergies are kicking up. Just go in and get started. I'll just peel out the rubber and the glue that holds the windshields on. Again, let it cook in the sun for a couple hours, kind of heats that up, makes it easier to get through. And sometimes the old cars, you just rip right through. So that's how I go down around the side, across the top, same thing on the other side, into the middle. And then once I get down to the bottom corners here, what I do is I get in and I carefully push it out. Again, the window's got a gel in it. I'll show here once I'm done. And it'll just break along the bottom, and then I'll just finish chipping that out. And then just set the window in the brush, and whenever you're done with the car, ready to scrap it, put it back in, put all the junk in with it, which is sitting over there, and take her to the scrap yard. So that's it. The sledgehammer there, the small sledge, but a big hammer. I'll do it right now here holding the camera, just straight through the center. There ain't no way to go about it. That one doesn't have the gel in it. It'll break into here. I usually like to get rid of the carpet and everything first, but it should stop about right there anyways. And then I'll just take the shop vac and sweep up both on the tarp. You can see I have a little bit of glass left over from the first car I did today. Kind of pick it up, shop vac it all up, shop vac inside, and she's all done. So here we go. All right, so got our glove and glasses on, our big hammer. Let's see how many it takes straight through the center. 2 is all it needs. You're gonna get little pieces going everywhere. That's why the tarp's nice, or back along the edge of the grass like I do it. And then just kind of tap with your mouth closed, of course. And when I get any glass or tiny shards of glass, there we go. Break it all in. Do that around, then same thing. I'll take my chisel and hammer and just go around here, clean it all up, and then sweep it up. So that's how we do it. Again, I know some guys take the reciprocating saw or Sawzall. I've done that. I think it makes even more of a mess with the little glass pieces and everything. This way it's clean, it'll come out. I'll throw that in the end here. So that's our window removal. I have found it's the best way to do it. I know you can buy the kits, but I think they're that frail, like piano wire. It breaks. It takes 2 people inside and out, and I'm always by myself. So this is, over the years, how I find it's best to do it. So a little bit of a mess, but gets the job done.